Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast, in which Craig Touch and myself, Roland Hume, chat to some of the bright lights, leading figures, and interesting people in this crazy world of self-publishing and writing. And today we have a very, very special guest from all the way the other side of the world. It is Juliette Banks, who writes under the pen name Juliette N. Banks, best-selling author of steamy paranormal and contemporary romances. We are delighted to have you, Juliette. Thank you so much for joining us. And how are you doing today?
Oh, very good. Thank you so much for having me. This is a nice surprise. And yeah, like you say, I'm over the other side of the world in New Zealand, and it's summer in the middle of the day here. So yeah, it's great to be here.
And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, this night for you and morning for her?
I'm great. Thanks, Roland. Yeah, thanks for figuring out the time zone issues today. I know, and like you said, it's a bit of a surprise from your perspective, because I reached out to you about this podcast because, you know, we want to talk about BookBub. And BookBub is, you know, something that's really important to authors. If you can get a BookBub, you know, you pretty much made it, you know. So, and your, you know, I stumbled across an article you had written, a blog you had written about BookBub for BookBub. It was posted on their site. And then I saw that, you know, you've had a whole whack of BookBubs yourself. You were saying you have about 6 of them now. So that, to me, makes you the BookBub expert. So we wanted to pick your brain a little bit and see if we can figure out what it is that you're doing right and the rest of us are doing wrong. So why don't you start off by just telling us about your BookBub journey so far?
Yeah, I have to say I feel very, very blessed. I'm about to have my 6th. So in December, my 6th BookBub, which is fantastic. And actually 5 of them have been this year. So I only started publishing in January 2021, my first book published. And then in October of 2021, I got my first BookBub. And that changed everything for me. Going from seeing, you know, sort of 3-figure sales a month to many, many more than that. And it was pretty exciting. And to be honest, am I the BookBub expert? Hell no. There are people that have had, you know, 30, 40, 50 BookBubs. So, and every single one of them is different. I think what has given me a head start is the fact that I have 3 decades of marketing experience behind me in the corporate world, working with, you know, big brands, small brands, and everything in between. So I'm able to look at the BookBub application quite sometimes differently. Not that I don't want to be too, I don't want to, these are quite generalized statements, but I look at them as a media company, and you know, like any of the media companies that I've advertised with any of the brands and products that I've marketed previously, I'm looking at what they want, but also doing that because we're authors, we're storytellers. Once we've got our product, then we become marketers of our products. So I'm doing that anyway. And of course, once you get the product that's, as we say, to market, then you know that you're on the right track, and BookBub's more likely to want to promote your book. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and all of your BookBubs were in the romance category, right?
Correct. I'm a steamy romance author, so I have paranormal books and I have contemporary romance books.
Right. So they break down their lists into a number of different genres, and I think even further than that, they break it down into the subgenre of romance, right? So was that what you were in? Was it paranormal romance? Was that the genre that the list of yours was sent to?
So I've had a multitude of, so I've had contemporary romance with, which is an enormous category for them, and the paranormal romance. And then in December, my BookBub is in romantic suspense, which I'm pretty excited about. As I said, all of them are different. They all perform different. 99 cents, I've had a box set, I've had free, and so every single one is quite different. And of course, I'm a what we call a rapid release author, so I publish a book just about every month, 10 last year and 10 this year, and so every time it's different for me, because I also have a larger backlist, more books for sale. I'll have, and as I'm evolving as an author, I'm putting more and more books up on pre-order, so there's more, and this is quite a key tactic, more books for those BookBub readers to be buying through on. So
and the pre-order can help really stack your ranking, can't it?
I'm going to be honest with you about ranking. I'm not an expert. I don't really understand how, I mean, I understand the basics, but for me, it's all about the numbers. As a wide author, so I publish across, Apple and Barnes and Nobles and Amazon and all of them. I'm more interested in the money, which sounds terrible, but we say bank over rank, and that's absolutely right. I mean, and because I'm not highly analytical, apart from when it comes to looking at the money coming in, I'm not terribly focused on that. I really want to know if I'm performing, because it is true. You can rank really high and not be banking. So at the end of the day, why are we doing it? Because we love being storytellers, but also these are, this is my business now. I'm a full-time author, so I want to see the money coming in. I
too am deeply passionate about paying my mortgage.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, listen, there's all kinds of different authors. Some people do it for the love of it. It's a part-time thing. They just want to tell their story. Some people do it just for the money. They don't really care about the rest. And then there's the, more of the blend of what probably most of them are, where they want to tell their stories, but they also want to get paid. And that's fair enough, right? I mean, especially if it's your business, especially if you're doing it full time, you don't have a day job that is paying your bills. And it's, so and BookBub is the one that does it. So like you said, and that's the experience from most of the people that I've talked to that have done BookBub, is it changes everything. It changes, you go from, like you said, 3 figures to far more than 3 figures. And contemporary romance is their biggest one. That's by far, I think, their biggest one, right? And more expensive, right? Because they charge based on the list size too, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, the prices are on their websites, but for paranormal, I would think I was paying, 300 and something. But once, I think the one I've just paid for is nearly close to $700 US, and then converting that to New Zealand dollars is even scarier. But it's interesting because the first one I got, it's exciting when you get your BookBub, and then you sit there and look at the price. And when you're a baby author, as the term is used, that's quite a commitment. And I see a lot of people sitting on the fence about whether they should apply and whether they should actually go ahead with it. And if you've got all those other things that I know that we'll talk about today in place, then I would say absolutely do it. I didn't sleep for nearly 2 days leading up to my first BookBub, and because I was so terrified of what was going to happen. And I had a job. I've been a marketing manager for a long time, so it wasn't like I was, and also depending on the income, but I was still nervous. I was like, is this going to fail? Because it feels a little bit like D-Day. If you fail in BookBub, you really have to go back and look at your product and go, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how many people fail with their BookBubs. I doubt that they publish those numbers, but I think from anecdotally, from what I've heard, I don't even think I've ever heard of anyone who was unhappy with the performance of their BookBub. But that also goes to the idea of why it's so hard to get a BookBub is you can't just apply and get it. It's like you have to go through the vetting process. They decide whether you are good enough to be on their list. And I think that's why there isn't a high failure rate, because they have a good idea of what it is that their audience is looking for. And that's the books that they're going to select. They're not going to select a book that, that they don't think is going to do well.
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. Obviously, the downloads can be remarkable. But how you leverage that is really the key thing. So, for example, my first BookBub, I think I had something like 40,000 downloads, which is great. But if your back matter is not really, really great, and you're getting the sales, because that was a free BookBub, and you're not getting the sales on those other books, then that could be seen for the author as, and not, I don't want to say failure, but because you're getting, there's other things, you're getting brand awareness, you're getting eyes on your books. And if people love them, they'll go looking for that book, but you want to eliminate any barrier. So you want those links straight at the end of the book where they can go, yes, I'm going to buy the next one and the next one and the next one, which is the sell through that we're talking about. So there's kind of different ways of looking at it. 99 cent BookBub, of course, the same thing. You can get some really, really high downloads. And then, as Roland said, that ranking really, really kicks in and your book becomes very, very visible. But are they buying through to the next books? And so while the back matter is also really important, also the hook in your book, is there something that makes readers want the next book? So there's so many levels and layers to it.
Right. I mean, you can, yeah, go ahead. No.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is a business. At the end of the day, this is a business. And okay, we're self-published, but that means we are all individual publishers. And when it comes to that, I mean, the key to me ever making money advertising was the fact that I'm not advertising book one in my series. I'm advertising every single book in my series, which is a 12-book series. So I can lose money on advertising book one, but I'll make it up as long as I get enough people reading through. And that's the same. You're a very prolific author. You have a huge back catalogue. And so, BookBub is like exposing people to your writing. And then they're like, oh my God, we love Juliette. We want more of her.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was too scared to apply for a BookBub right in the beginning because I didn't have that many books and I was really impatient. It's probably what has made me be a rapid release author because I was 33 years in corporate. I wanted out. I wanted to work for myself and I had a very clear target. And so it was write the books, well, high quality, because they, otherwise the BookBub is not going to be effective, and get as many under my belt as possible. So I was very shy, I think, to start with, and it really has been probably the middle of this year where I have been, and look, it's paying off. I've had 3 BookBubs in a row, August, September, October. This November I haven't, December I've got another one. So the key thing is apply. And even if, if the budget allows, even if you're not getting the sell through so much because you don't have that backlist, you're still getting brand awareness. So you think, some startups, because Roland, you're right, this is a business. Some startups do run at a bit of a loss. If you have a corporate job that's supporting you while you're doing this, I would say, apply for those BookBubs. But also, going back to the free thing, my strategy is my business strategy. Actually, side note here, I've been doing coaching sessions with authors and supporting me in my business growth. And one of the things I always bring up when I first talk with them is my business plan, and I'm very visual, so it's got all my books and the prices and so on. And a few of them said to me, no author has created this for me. We are a business. Create a business plan. It doesn't have to be fancy. I've got 30 years of marketing experience, but it doesn't have to be fancy. Put something on paper that's a plan and make BookBub part of it. Like any goals that we're creating in life, if we document it, if we're clear on what we're trying to achieve, that's really going to help. And you'll get rejections. I've got rejections. If you had a look at my BookBub dashboard, there's tons of rejections in there. And I just think it's a numbers game. So you apply.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you write. I mean, I read 11 books before I got my first bestseller. I think you've done good. 2001 was when you published your first novel?
Yes, in January. Yes.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have my life has been quite focused on work and writing for the last 2 years for sure. So I don't want anyone to think that that's easy. I have, we were in lockdown very heavily for a long period of time in New Zealand. So that helped. And, there wasn't anything, you couldn't go anywhere. I don't know how many of your listeners know, but literally you could go to the supermarket, the pharmacy, the petrol station. Those were the only things open for a very, very, very long time. So it was, I live alone with the cat. And so it was writing, right. Why not? Make a business. So.
For sure. And sorry, I think, I don't know, it might have been my audio that glitched. Roland, you said 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. To me, it sounded like 2001. I was like, oh, wait, that's sorry. Yeah, so you've only been.
She was
doing it for
self-publishing 10
years.
years before the Kindle was invented.
That's right. So that is, I mean, it's great advice. You have to treat it like a business plan. It's perfect. And I mean, it goes to the idea, like if, like you're saying, when you do the free BookBub, like, why would you do a free BookBub if it's like your only book, right? I mean, there's no reason to, or if you haven't really, planned out, that goes to the planning of your business. Like, somebody gets in their head that they need a BookBub, and then they have their first book and it's great, and then they put it for free, and then they go on a BookBub and boom, they have 1 million books. Who cares, right? Because it was free, and now it's over, and everyone loved it, and now they just got to sit around and wait. And by the time your next book comes out, they've moved on, right? You need something else for them to go to.
Yeah, and so and one of the things that I would say, no matter where you are in your author journey, if you get a BookBub, put up pre-orders. And as soon as I found out that I had the BookBub for, excuse me, the second book in my contemporary romance, I have been working very, very aggressively with my designers to get 2 more books up on pre-order. Because I've got BookBubs on book 1 and book 2, I now have taken it from a trilogy to now a 6-book series, which is going to be announced, and certainly will be by the time the podcast goes live. So yeah, get those pre-orders up. And an author coach gave me a great tip on this. You don't know what the book is. You can sit down and spend, and this is me talking, but sit down and spend a couple of hours, working out what you think the book is. I'm a what they call a pantster, so I sort of plot and sort of pantster, somewhere in between. But you just, put up a temporary cover. You can, put a very basic blurb up there. If people love your book, they actually will pre-order it. And then you can go in and tweak it as it gets closer to the time. The only risk with this, if you haven't got momentum as an author and you don't know your schedule and you don't know how long it takes you to write a book, what I would say is push it out, push the date as far out as you think is realistic. You don't want to go too far. 2025 might put readers off. But you can bring a pre-order date earlier, forward, backwards. I never know which one's right. And Amazon will let you do that. That won't let you push it out more than 30 days. And I've also just, with COVID, I've had COVID recently, so that messed my schedule up. So I've had some frantic conversations with them to push some books out for next year. So don't do that. That can be highly stressful. So be realistic about those. But you want to give, if you get a BookBub and you've only got 1 book, get up 2 or 3 pre-orders. And that's uncomfortable for some authors to do. I get that, but it's a good tactic. And
so when you do that, when you do some pre-orders, so you have your BookBub, regardless of whether it's free or 99 cents. I don't think that they'd let you do anything higher than that, right? It's is it 99 cents the highest that you can go with a BookBub?
No, you can go $1.99 and $2.99, and from what I've observed, and like I say, I've only been in the industry a couple of years, it tends to be the traditional authors that are doing that, and because the cost is actually substantially more, and and I think also the reality is that people are used to paying a little bit more, quite a bit more for a traditional book. So when they're in BookBub space, when they open their email, they're looking for a really great deal. So a traditional ebook that is usually $9.99 or $12.99, making these prices up, but is so then a BookBub $1.99 or $2.99 deal is a great deal. But for me, my books are usually priced around $5.99. So giving them a $2.99 deal is probably not going to be what they're looking for. And that's the mentality of the consumer when they're in BookBub. That's not necessarily true for other paid promotional places or on Amazon or bookstores, but in BookBub space, when you open that, you want a really great deal.
Yeah, it seems like the consensus is, if you want to be successful on BookBub, you have to be offering a deal. And it's funny, my dad reads a book a week, and he's always opening up BookBub saying like, oh, I got this one for 99 pence.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. You have to have like that thing of why you've got a deal, why it's a good buy.
So if you put yours at 99 cents, and then you have your pre-orders are at the full $5.99, is that right?
Yeah.
And so how are you seeing, like, what kind of like percentage of people are you seeing pre-ordering from a BookBub? Like, X amount are downloading it for 99 cents, and then how much of a percentage of that is moving on to the $5.99 full amount, and even how many are looking and buying back matter for regular price as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to answer, only purely because, as I said, every BookBub is different. So and every series is different, so it always changes. I think the sell-through from free to the second book is, from what I understand, the industry average is between 2 to 3%. From a paid, say $5.99 to $5.99, is somewhere around the 45 to 50% mark. So that's what you should be looking for. I have had some really great luck. I've had up to 8% from free to my second book with some of my BookBubs, and I know I'm not unique in that, but those are sort of industry standards that you should be looking for. I had one BookBub was a 99-cent box set, and those are absolute gold. I didn't know it was every BookBub that I have is new to me still, and so I did get told I should try for a list run. But again, I think it was pretty pricey from memory. I think it was about $500 or $600, and I was sort of like, oh, that seems like quite a lot. I think I'll just stick with this. But in hindsight, it actually performed incredibly well. I think, what did I write down? I didn't write down that. I couldn't figure out the downloads for that. Sorry, but it was many thousands, and yeah, that was pretty exciting, because of course it was my first one that was actually a paid or 99-cent BookBub as opposed to free. So it was amazing seeing those numbers accumulating.
Because you're actually getting paid.
You get it paid, and I mean it's 35 cents. So I know you have to go through a little bit of a counseling session with yourself, because you're like, I'm giving away 4 books for 35% royalty on 99 cents. So but this is the thing about BookBub. Until you've experienced one, and actually, for me, my BookBubs go live at 3 a.m, so I have to stay awake to make sure that all the book retailers don't change the price. And then I have to go to sleep knowing that the numbers are starting to dribble in, and I'm, it's not a very good sleep. So I usually wake up about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and quickly log on and start looking at, the thousands and thousands of downloads. I mean, my contemporary novel, book 1, which was free in September, that's a billionaire romance. And the contemporary romance space, as we said, that's the biggest category. And I had, over a period of, I can't remember, but let's say 4 or 5 or 6 days, 75,000 downloads on that book, and it hit the #1 of the entire Amazon store, not New Zealand, US. And that was mind-blowing. 75,000 downloads.
Wow.
I mean, I just
that was the 99-cent one.
That one was
that
was a free contemporary, the billionaire romance.
So that is amazing. I mean, think of that: 75,000 people, individual people like you and I, people sitting at home, and they're like, Juliette N Banks, will download her.
Yeah, it's kind of
And even if you get the low end, the like 2%, right? That's still 1,500 sales, right?
Yeah.
Of your $5.99 then. So it's that's not a bad proposition of, and then even with the $500, okay, I'm giving away a book for 35 cents. It's got 4 books in it, and it cost me $500 to run it or whatever. But you had thousands of downloads, right? So that as well was pure profit, because
Yep. And they pay for themselves pretty much. It can take 6 hours or 2 days, just depending, and different times of the year. They will perform differently. What I'm seeing, I had a BookBub. Oh well, that one was on September 11. So you can imagine, I was like, holy smokes, is this a bad idea? But you can't. It's very hard and not a good idea to say no to a BookBub. You don't want to do that to them anyway if you've applied. If you haven't necessarily got what you've asked for, you could probably, but I wouldn't go saying no to them unless you've got a really, really good reason.
You don't want them to get mad at you and then never take one of your books again, right?
Exactly. So that took a little while. September 11, that started really slow, that one, and I was getting really, really nervous. But then over the next couple of days, that 75,000 downloads. I mean, gosh, that's really huge.
Well, even on a book, even on a free book, you think of the way that will filter into all of the also boughts on Amazon. Do you think the people are going to leave reviews? I know it's like 0.5% of people who leave reviews. When you got 75,000 people, that's significant, and reviews. Every single review you get just increases your convertibility for your book. So that's whopping.
It is whopping. It is, you sit there, you go, wow, okay, January last year, I published my first book. Did I ever think that anybody would, that 75,000 people would download? And look, I haven't looked at the numbers. It's probably far more. But the other thing with that one is that I only had book 2 available for purchase. Book 3 was actually not published yet. I was still editing book 3 at the time, finishing writing and editing it. I actually brought the date closer, so I tightened it even tighter, but I also put up book 4 because I was like, I want as many sales to be captured in that time. And I think as a new author, there is a comfort in knowing, I think I've got like 5 or 6, maybe even 7 books on pre-order right now, right and through until about June next year. And there's a comfort in seeing those pre-orders and knowing that there's secure income with those. I mean, people can cancel them for sure, but they generally don't. You get the odd 1 or 2. So for me, I just wanted to capture as many as I could. And now, like I say, with the second BookBub coming up in December, I've added even more books. So that series is really surprisingly, doing really, really well. I honestly, everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, you're a paranormal romance author. You got to stick in your lane. And I was like, but I want to write these books. And we have characters come to us and I just was, I kind of like breaking rules. I was like, I'm a steamy romance author. Does it really matter? I mean, I'm not going to go, I'm a marketer as well. So I'm not going to go down the historical romance lane. That's too far. But I was like, no, it's, sexy hot men. That's what people are reading my books for. So
right.
Sure, you guys are.
When you put your pre-orders up, are those at $5.99 or at 99 cents?
No, I never put pre-orders up for a sale price. I'm actually launching a shifter romance book, and I have dipped it down to $3.99 for the launch period. There's technical reasons for that, but I haven't done that since sort of early days. But yeah, so especially with a series that's obviously got that much sell through. This is a new series that is actually key to my marketing plan, I think, whereas the billionaires are a little bit like, I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens.
But I mean, that's amazing to stack up the pre-orders on a $5.99 book. Based off
yeah,
that's huge, because when you're talking 70% of $5.99, then you're talking that's beer money. That is,
it's pretty exciting, and I actually couldn't believe how many pre-orders I've got for the one that I'm launching in March. In fact, I was going to launch it in May, and then I was like, no, let's bring it forward, because I know the likelihood of people pre-ordering more and more, especially with this second BookBub. If it's March, that doesn't seem so far away. May sort of feels like well into next year. I kind of always try and put myself into consumer or readers, as we call them, shoes, and go, how does this feel for me? And you're getting a sense when you're in your readers group and and social media where people are going, I can't wait for this now. It feels so long, just you can get a sense, or do a poll in your group. Would you like this earlier? I mean, this is the thing. I talk to my readers. I'm really close with them. And I think, and I love them, and I love talking to them, and I love the excitement. And I think that sells books, but also it's research. It's constantly thinking, market research. What are they thinking? What do they want? So there's two sides to it.
Now, do you feel comfortable sharing some of the figures you've got for like your pre-orders? You can say no. That's fine.
Do I want to do that? I think I won't.
No, that's fair enough. That's absolutely fine. I totally understand that. And
But she said, like, I mean, like on one of them there was an 8%, and that was really high. And so, and you've only had the one, it was the box set that was at 99 cents, right? The rest were all free?
And no, so what I've got it written here, the first one was free, the second one was free, the third one was the box set, which was the 99¢. Then the contemporary romance in September was free, and then in October I had a 99¢ one for one of my vampire books, and it was actually book 6. Now that one, I have to say, and this is where it gets really hard to say, well, I don't think it did as well as I was hoping. Whereas, there was thousands of downloads of that book. So great. But I was hoping for a better result, because book 1, the freebie, hadn't been promoted for a long time. So I was hoping that there would be, a really huge impact on the whole series. But I think what's happening is that this series has had quite a lot of BookBubs, and so especially with the box set, they've already got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I had great sell through for the. I've got 9 books in that series now, so that was great. So it was book 6, but I didn't get the pickup in the earlier books that I was really hoping. So
now, are these books standalone?
No, they're standalone in the respect that there's a happy ever after and for every couple, and there's a different couple, but there is an overarching storyline that you can, but you
Right.
get more value in reading the whole thing.
So I mean, wouldn't that be part of why putting up book 6 isn't going to do as well, because what if people haven't read the other ones, right? So yeah, that's always going to be an issue. It's always hard to market in the middle of a series if they're not completely standalone. Yeah,
and actually that goes to why one of my last books in that series, it's not a completed series, but they're called The Vampire's Wolf, and I created that as a new entry point, because it basically, everything I'm thinking for the most part is, how will this work in BookBub? Because it is such a great revenue generator. It's an essential part of your marketing plan if your books match what they're looking for. And so I wanted a new entry point, and not just because they will like it, but because it will work for me. So as much as I mean, it was great, my income shot up quite high that in October, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. It was a learning. So okay, this didn't work as well, so I probably won't go and apply with those books. But The Vampire Wolf, I'm going to go for that in a few months, because I know it's a new starting point. I can actually call that out in the book description and on the bookstores, which I do. And so when readers click through and see that, they will then make hopefully a different decision, and that could actually even be a good 99¢ one, or it could be a freebie. And that was the next series which I mentioned, which is the Wolf series, the Shifter series. So that one is I don't know what the technical term is, but the kicking off point into that series,
the entry point.
Oh, there we go. There you go. The entry point for that. But it's also not an essential, by the way, if anyone's reading it.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the things that's right, you've got 6 BookBub deals. I think one of the things that's very clear about that is you hit the mark right out of the gate, which, to be honest, is kind of astonishing. If you started publishing in 2021 and you were getting BookBub deals, I mean, schmucks like me, have been chasing BookBub deals for years. So to get one straight out of the gate, but then you look at your books, The Vampire Lover, The Vampire Prince, The Vampire Protector and stuff, and it's like everything about them is very clearly on point. Now, you say you have a marketing background. How much of that how did you end up producing something like The Vampire Assassin straight out of the gate, knowing it was, it's really solid. How did you know how to build that?
I don't truly know the answer to that. I'm a reader first. I think I'm not 21, and no offense to 21-year-olds, but I have a few years under my belt and 30 years of marketing experience. And I think I've always written. I've always been a storyteller. I did publish a book with Random House in 2013, which was a non-fiction book and another life when I was a marketer. And that gave me some experience of dealing with, obviously, one of the top publishers in the world. And So I kind of understood the process a tiny bit. Then I spent 2020 studying. I built my group. I studied the market, and I knew I loved doing it. And I had decided, once I was sharing some of my stories with my readers, that's it, I'm going to do it. So like I say, I put a business plan in place. And one of the things, which I know that authors are going to hate me saying this, but I'm just going to say it, the whole creator cover to compete with indie authors, not traditional authors, to me, that's not true at all. When you go into the supermarket, you don't have a section for small business owners and then the big guys. Everything's on the same shelf. When you open your BookBub, there's traditional authors and there's indie authors in there. So you want to have the best cover, and not be competing with indies. You're competing with readers' time and their focus. That's your competition. So, and in those spaces, whether it be on Amazon and BookBub, on Hidden Gems, whatever it might be, you're all mixed in together. Sometimes, some places more than others. So you want to have the best covers. And I guess for me, I was like, I want to have the sexiest, hottest guy. And I'm very visual. So I had a very clear vision what I wanted the book to look like. I wanted it to be high quality and so on and so forth. And that's, I want to say half the job. It's a quarter of the job, because then your book description has to be absolutely on the mark. Now, that was probably one of my weaknesses, I'll be honest. Even though I'd done copywriting as a marketer, I'd also had a lot of people doing these things for me. So I would write them and they were pretty bad. So I did a lot of learning. I read some books and I studied indies and traditional book blurbs or book descriptions, and just wrote a whole ton. And then, getting feedback and just, I've written, 50 of the damn things now. I don't love them.
Yeah. Listen, that's the right attitude. People, as they go to read a book or buy a book, they're not thinking, is this an indie author? I only want to read trad published author. Like, they don't know, right? And you don't want them to know. You don't want to produce a book that looks like it was an indie book. No, there's no offense there to indies, but you don't want to look like you did this on your computer, with a rudimentary skill set of pulling off fonts from Canva, doing it in paint, and people, you don't want people to be like, oh yeah, clearly he did this himself. Like, that's going to put them off, because then they're going to think, that doesn't look super professional. Maybe the writing's not super professional, right? It could be the best book in the world, but if you haven't packaged it right, then people aren't going to ever know that, because they're not going to buy it. So you want to compete with all the books, be the best, as best as you can do. And hopefully, and people aren't thinking, unless they know the name, they won't know anyways. They're not going to know who published you. They're just, unless they know that your name is somebody famous. Otherwise, they're just, I don't know all the names of all the famous writers or all the non-famous writers, right? I just see a book, it looks interesting, I'm going to buy it, right? But so what, do you have any, tips for authors that are trying to get a BookBub, how to optimize their chances of doing that?
Yeah, I think it's, it's kind of boring, because and it feels really repetitive, but it's the same thing. It's like, make sure your cover is amazing. Go and do your research, go on onto Amazon, go onto Apple, go into Barnes and Nobles, go into Google, go into all of them, not just Amazon, and look at all the covers. Have a look at covers. It was funny on the BookBub site where I did the article. I say, don't look on Instagram, but do look on there, because you can also see the good and the bad, and just understand the market. So get your book, get a really good book designer, and just make sure the cover designer, and just make sure that is 100%, and get feedback. But don't ask your mum, and don't ask your best friend, don't ask your dad, especially if it's a steamy cover. Just reach out to authors. Authors just have blown my mind by how supportive they are of each other. Be brave, reach out, ask. Don't take too much time, because we're all ridiculously busy. And there are some groups, I think, that you can put covers into on Facebook and just get some feedback. Have thick skin. Remember, like, I've got really, really emotionally attached to my covers to begin with, and then I realized that actually by the time you've done 20, you're just like, you're just like, yeah, no. So covers majorly important. Like I say, the book description, look, there are heaps of books by other authors or copywriters. So just one thing on that, book blurb, your book blurb is a completely different style of writing to story novel writing.
Yeah.
It's copywriting as opposed to storytelling. So go and literally spend hours online and look at not your friends' books or whatever, but your favorite authors and the top 100 books. Read the traditional and indie authors. And study them, and then there's like literally I think I invested $9.99 or maybe it was $15.99 on some blurb writing books. There's a couple of really good ones that, you know, just they only took me a couple of hours. Maybe I spent a couple of weeks reading through them when I had some spare time, and just played and then just shared them with people and give me feedback. And it's harsh. No, it's terrible. It's hard to hear. But at the end of the day, do you want to sell books or do you not? Do you want a BookBub or do you not? And then your book. I mean, please, please, please edit your books. There's been some interesting debates that I have read about this. You can't edit your own book. I mean, for goodness, I just had, you know, terrible COVID, brain fog. I couldn't concentrate.
I'm just saying hallelujah and preach to that.
Right? Because we don't, as indie authors, we are, many of us are creating extraordinarily amazing quality books. And we don't want, you know, we've all been on Goodreads and TikTok and seen all the criticism about, I won't read indie authors because, you know, mistakes in the books and stuff like that. Well, none of us want that. If you want this to be your business, invest in a good cover, invest in the time writing a really good book, invest in an editor, get that blurb right. You're not going to get it right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but do your best. And, you know, I see people talking about budgets. I get it. Like, you know, if you got a budget, you got a budget. Wait 6 months, save up, because otherwise you're going to go through this experience of launching a book. It's going to fail. You won't get the reviews and all those sort of things. And it's going to hurt and you're going to think you failed. But invest in, and there's different price editors out there. Without those editors, I tell you, I couldn't be publishing the book that I have right now, because with that COVID fog, I just could not focus. And I apologize. I'm like, oh my God, this is a mess. You know, and now I'm really proud of it. So
I think even if you are like super switched on, you can't edit your own book. You're too close to it. You physically can't, or you. I mean,
you literally. I think I have fun when I get my manuscripts back from my editors, because I just laugh at the stuff that the things that I've written. It's, you know, oh my goodness, you just go, can I even write?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, it sounds like all the things that you're saying that you need to do to optimize for BookBub are the same things that we've always been preaching in all of our podcasts and our blogs and all that stuff, and through our services that we offer. Like, I mean, you know, Roland is one of our blurb writers, and that's one of our most popular services. It's all the same things that we say to do for to sell your book, right? It's like, make sure you're writing a great cover, make sure your blurb makes sense for your subgenre, make sure, you know, like all those same things are what sell your book, and that's what gets you onto BookBub too, right?
And I think the most important thing on top of, you know, when you've got those right, is applying. And so apply. So many people just don't apply. If you think you've got those right, apply.
Now, would you apply more than once for the same book?
So what you can do, if you apply for a free and you don't get that, you can apply for a 99 cent if it's right for your business strategy straight away. Then you have to wait 1 month before you can apply again.
For the same book, but you can apply for a different book.
You can apply. I applied for I applied for a BookBub when I had one running already, and that's how I got my consecutive ones. I didn't know that you could do that. So.
Okay, so the 30-day break is for the same book. They don't want to, but you can do other books every day, every week, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be smart about that, they're not going to put Juliette N banks and, you know, every 2 weeks.
Right. No. I mean, assuming they're not even taking it. Like if they said no to book one,
right.
you could like the next day try a different book. And
that's correct.
Yeah.
And if you
right.
do have lots of books, you actually have an author friend. I'm not this organized, but I have an author friend who has a spreadsheet, and she literally has a schedule of when she can apply. And I'll probably have to start doing that, because now with 20 books, it's starting to get scrolling through all the applications and working out when I've done it and when I haven't. But I would say just keep applying, because the thing is, you never know when they're going to do it. There's also trends. What I would say is, if you don't open BookBub every single day and look at it at least 3 or 4 times a week and have a look at what's going on, when there is Bridgerton about to be released, there's very heavily a historical trend that they're looking for. So if you've got historical books, apply.
But what's the lead time, like from when you apply to when you get the BookBub? Is it a long period of time?
I see what you're saying. So when it actually goes live?
Yeah.
It can be different. It's generally between 2 and 3 weeks is what I found. So you do have a bit of time to do some training.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking that's what I'm getting at, is like if you're trying to follow the trend, you see all of a sudden, there's historical and you apply with your historical, and then it's 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later that you get it. Is that trend still going to be hot? I mean, hopefully it is. Hopefully the trends last that long. But
yeah. But the trends do tend to be quite long. Bridgerton has a long tail, and I'm talking about that one because I don't have historical books. So as soon as they start focusing on Bridgerton, I'm like, oh, there goes my BookBub days for a while.
So I guess the key there is that you don't need to, just because they reject you or for one book, doesn't mean that book is not right for them. They'll never take it. You can just do it again, right? Because they have a lot of books, and they're saying no to probably more than they're saying yes to. And it just comes to, when you applied, was there just better ones that they picked? And then next time when you apply for that same books, yours is going to be the best of the ones that they got at that time, right? So that's how you sort of play the numbers that way.
Oh, if I knew the answer to that, I think I'd probably be incredibly popular. But I would say nobody loves rejection. I have a real thing with rejection. So I really struggled in the beginning. I was like, my books aren't good enough, and I was a new author. Just don't worry about it. It's they have, I don't know how many, but they're getting thousands of applications. And if you look at, having worked in corporate, and I really had to have a good old talk to myself, you just have to imagine, the emails or the meeting that they have, right? This week we're looking for this, or this month we're looking for this and this. It's not personal. They're just looking for key things. And so study those emails, but the best thing you can do is really just look at your market and just create the best book. If you're, take my billionaire books, for example. I mean, they're absolutely on market, and that's why they are taking them. As soon as I apply, they take them straight away. I've had no rejections from that series whatsoever. And it's because they just look exactly like what readers are looking for and are buying with some of those top billionaire romance authors. So, that was exactly what I've done. And the other thing is, once you get it, then, you need to have a strategy on how to leverage that and decide whether you want to do stacking and do other paid promotions, or whether you want to run it on its own. And I would say, if it's your first one and you're not going for a list run, then I would go just let it run by itself, so you can see how it performs, because that's actually really, really good data. And then some of your future, if you do get a 99-cent box set, I would say try for a list run. And one of the key things you want to do with that, apart from obviously buying other paid advertising on or around that date, and I'm not an expert in list runs because I haven't done one before, but is swapping with authors. So building those relationships with other authors in your genre is really, really important, and doing swaps, newsletter swaps any time of the week, any year is a good thing, because your readers are their readers. So, there's a ton of things you can do, but that back matter is key. Getting those pre-orders up. Are you going to do other advertising, swapping? There's a lot of, I think there's some good tips on, what else to do on BookBub, but, going and talking to, if you're with Draft to Digital, fill out their promotion form, tell them you've got a BookBub, go to Kobo or Google or App and tell them you've got a BookBub. What else, just let them know, because sometimes they will put your books into promotional spaces, because obviously it's going to sell more for them. What else? Your social media. Tell your audience first. And you want to get all your sales out of the way. So again, you can see how your BookBub has performed. So I tell my newsletter, I tell my social media, I tell my Facebook group, I tell Instagram, I tell everyone about 2 or 3 days beforehand. And then one of the final things I would say is I see people doing on BookBub, they put their book free or 99 cents, and then they just like 2 or 3 days later, they turn it off. Don't do that. Keep it, because, you know, the ranking and banking both are very, very effective. Because of some of
I would think it's almost like, so if you do a not necessarily a free, but if you ran a 99-cent BookBub and it does rank, right? You get a lot of sales, it pushes you up. My feeling would be to switch the price as soon as I could to $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, because when people see it in the rank, they are going to see that it's ranked really high at that price. They can't tell that it got there at 99 cents because of a BookBub. So you might be losing out on some of those BookBub people that are stragglers that didn't open the email till later, but you're then getting the higher price sales from the people that are seeing you on the top lists because you rank so high. But I don't know. That's my feeling, but I'm not.
Yeah. I look at it differently. I go, yeah. I want the 1,000 people that are going to buy it at 99 cents or $2.99 or whatever, as opposed to the 7 or 8 people that are going to buy it at $3.99.
Well, I would like to think it's more than 7 or 8, but I don't know. Like, I mean, when you hit, like, if that pushes you up into the top 10 of your list, I would like to think that organic sales at that point are going to take over, and you're going to get a ton of people. Like, you don't know. That's the problem, right? Like, you don't know. You were talking about how, like, the sales might go for a couple days, right? But BookBub's put out another email the next day. So yours day 2 sales might be coming organically because people are seeing you so high up in the list. And if you had changed the price, yes, you would have got less, but would you have gotten enough less that you would have made less money? I don't know. But my feeling would be, like, flip that price as, at least, hey, if I was getting 6 BookBubs a year, I'd probably be experimenting a little bit. If I got 1, I'd be like, whatever everyone says I should do, I'll just do. But
I guess, I mean, to be honest, I think so firstly, BookBub readers will open their emails, you know, I don't know statistically how many days, but they are opening them for days later, and you can see that with your downloads. You know, it does dip, and it sort of does this. It doesn't just go like this. So it's not a one-day thing. The other thing is that when you keep it at that price, it stays up on the BookBub website, and they get a lot of traffic. I mean, they really have millions of people going onto their websites. So you're sort of seeing sort of that over, you know, 4 or 5 days. But it's still very, very, very high compared to when you turn it off. As you know, it's literally like turning a tap off. As soon as you put the price back to full price, it comes off the BookBub website as well. So all of a sudden your book is invisible again, apart from that ranking. And to your point, then the next BookBub kicks in the next day, the newsletter, and then someone else is going up there, and then in those books, and next day, and they're just pushing your book down. So by keeping it at a discounted price, you're staying up there. And I think this is, you know, having a backlist does help, because you're getting the sell through and the sales, because really, even at a 99 cents, it's still a lost leader. So free, you know, it's a loss. A 99 cents is a loss leader. You're using it as a tool. I look at the money I get from the book that's 99 cents as the cherry on the top. What I'm using that book for is to get the sales into these other books. And so that's why I just go, like, it's 90. And to be honest, BookBub is favoring 99 cents over free right now. And I don't know if that's a fact, but that's what I'm seeing in my experience. And so I just go, look, it could be free, it could be 99 cents, and great. You know, you don't get quite as much buy through because you're not getting the same volume for free, but that's how I use it.
I think from that perspective, from the idea that people are buying your other books, then it makes more sense to keep it for longer at a lower price and push out more copies for sure. Yeah. I guess, the strategy I was thinking of is probably more when you're looking at the sales for that one specific book, you may be pushing up and getting a little bit more money out of less sales. But if you're trying to, especially if you have a big catalog and you have some good read through, then it probably makes more sense to just move more copies.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I hate to say it, but we've reached the top of the hour. I think, Craig, I want to have Juliette back because some of the stuff you've done with the way you've packaged it all together, I think that we've established that's the key to why you were getting BookBub deals again and again and again, is because you put together a really solid package. So I'd love to spend another hour talking to you about that. And then there's another hour we could spend talking to you about pre-orders. I think, I don't know about.
It's interesting. Pre-orders. Pre-orders are an interesting thing. It's a strategy that I've used heavily, and actually I need to balance it out because I'm not promoting my books enough after they've launched. So it's a learning curve for me still with that, but definitely, pre-orders for the last 2 years have been a strong strategy, and I'd love to come back and talk to you guys again when you invite me. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, okay. So as we wrap things up, first of all, Juliette, where can people find your books?
Everywhere. I'm a wide author, so Apple, Barnes & Nobles, Google, Amazon, Kobo. But if you want an easy place to go straight away, www.juliettebanks, so JULIETTE banks.com. That's my website, and they're all on there.
That is wonderful. Well, obviously, we'll drop a link down below in the description. Craig, before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think we're already longer than the normal, which is a testament to the fact that, I mean, like you said, there's so much here to talk about, and I agree. We'll definitely have you back on, everybody who's going to listen to this who doesn't already have a BookBub I'm sure we're taking notes, and they're going to be sending out their applications tomorrow. So.
Absolutely. So we might be harder back releasing this until we've also submitted our BookBubs.
That's what I was going to say. It might be harder now for her to get like BookBub 7 and 8.
Hopefully not, but I wish everybody luck. I think there's more than enough for everybody.
For sure.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Juliette. And if you are watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening as a podcast, please make sure to give Juliette some love. Leave a comment down below. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And we are so delighted to have had you here, Juliette. We hope to see you back again soon. And we'll be back next week with another guest and another episode of Fully Booked. So stay tuned until then. Cheerio.